Dustin?
Keith Dirk,
Here.
Steve Brunner,
Here.
Tom Moll,
Here.
John Gallen, and Dave Reeser.
Here.
Public comment? Wave of the finger indicates no comment.
No
today?
comments.
Okay, got it. Cash update, Cat Phillips, go ahead.
All right, end of June, cash and investments total $13,469,000, a small decrease over the end of May of $298,000. At this time, there are 3 grant reimbursements that are pending. In addition to the reimbursement for the police computers and the bike route for the first quarter, application has been made to PennDOT for Green Light Go in the amount of $151,000. That amount was approved this morning and payment is expected on Friday. Early in June, VIST had adjusted the rates on all the branch accounts to 3.5%. We were notified on Monday that effective on the 3rd, VIST rates were increasing to 4.25%. ICS remains at 3%. So local branch remains the best investment for the liquid funds, with the PLGIT rates slightly higher. Total PLGIT investments currently total $10 million. There were no maturities during the month of June. Next week there are 2 terms maturing. The first will be on Wednesday for $2 million. That was a short-term investment that was made of the tax proceeds. That will yield $17,000 in interest. And then on Friday, another $1 million that had been invested for 150 days will be maturing, and that will yield $19,000. So together, PLGIT interest to date is $124,000. Together with bank interest, the total interest to date is $188,000. The current PLGIT investments will yield another $268,000 in interest. So the projection for total interest for the year is $504,000, where only $116,000 had been budgeted, so we have a positive variance of $388,000. For the items that are maturing next week, the $2 million I'd like to retain and keep liquid. We have a number of very large payment apps coming due in July and August. The $1 million that is maturing on Friday, I think we would be safe to reinvest that $1 million. The current rates are well over 5%. Anything we do past 150 days will cause maturity to be in 2024. So is there any interest in investing for the short term and increasing the current year interest, or would you like to start setting up for 2024?
Well, it sounds like with the VIST interest being increased to 4.1, you're not gonna really get hurt that much by keeping it local.
What happens with the PLGIT if I don't immediately reinvest? It sits in a PLGIT class account, which currently is earning 4.95%. So I can keep it in PLGIT without committing it to a term, and we would still be slightly exceeding the increased VIST rate.
So you're saying keep the $2 million in being liquid, but not necessarily with this?
Correct. I could just leave it sit in PLGIT class without committing it to a maturity term.
Okay, and it's easily accessible?
Really?
Yes. Currently, the PLGIT balance is $10,077,000, which is just accumulated interest that we did bring over into the general fund.
Well, it's up to you. I mean, it depends on what you think you need and how long you think you need it for.
As I said, the $2 million I am not comfortable reinvesting. You'll see as we review the capital projects, there are a number of payment apps coming due, and I don't know delivery of some of the police equipment and those kind of things.
And what do you prefer? Is it easier to keep it in PLGIT?
It is PLGIT. I have next day availability. Yeah.
Yeah, at 4.9.
I'll make the recommendation we take the $2 million and leave it in the PLGIT untermed fund.
Okay.
Second.
PLGIT classes, Steve.
PLGIT class.
Motion and a second to recommend to council to leave the $2 million in the PLGIT non
And then we have 1 million that's maturing on Friday.
And
Where
how-
would you like to park that money?
And again, the question to you is, what's your cash flow requirements?
There's another million maturing on August 10th that we can reevaluate at that time. So the million that is maturing on July 14th, we would have an opportunity to get 5 point something depending on the period that we pick.
So if it's 150 days, if I'm reading that right, it's 5.64, and it's 180 days, it's 5.67.
Right, but that December 30th maturity, since these rates were available as of Monday the 3rd, it doesn't mature until the 14th, will cause it to be 2024.
So why don't we do one more for this year and put it in for November 30th at 150 days at 5.64, and then we'll start dumping stuff.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second to recommend to council that we reinvest the CD that's coming due 7/14. And I guess that would be post, it would be ratifying the decision since it's before. Oh, no, it's not.
No,
14th,
council
that's right.
meets
The 11th.
before the
The 11th,
14th,
okay.
yes.
So it's recommended to council. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Aye.
The other one to consider is the 1 million that will be maturing in August. It will be after council, but I won't be at finance on the 3rd. If we're having a special meeting prior to council, we could discuss it at that time, or you can make a decision at that time. I'd like to see what my cash balances are in August, before recommending a
Well,
maturity.
what's the worst case scenario? You stick in that class fund again for that
Yes.
$1 million, and it's not
Correct.
the end of the world.
Yes.
As it stands today.
Yeah, I think we should probably try to have a special meeting prior to the council meeting after you get back, as opposed to, I don't know what we're gonna discuss if we don't have the information like this,
Other than anything administrative,
It'd just be
But-
an admin meeting.
but why not have you been doing it all at the same time?
that's fine.
I mean, unless there's some pressing issue that, usually there's not, it's something that has to be done right away. So
No,
I think we try to schedule a finance committee meeting prior to the borough meeting, and then, Phyllis, don't kill yourself, but get whatever basic information you can, and, top line revenue, top line, expenses kind of thing, and then we'll have a short meeting that we can present it for our council, and especially if there's any action we need to be taken. You all right with that?
Schedule that.
Just meet at 5 o'clock that day, or 4 o'clock the day of the council meeting.
That's what I mean, yeah. That afternoon prior to the council meeting.
but
So,
do you wanna
wanna-
pick a
Oh, wait.
specific time for
Hold on,
advertising?
time out. Council meeting is when?
The 8th.
Tuesday, August
I
8th.
take my kid back to school that day, just so we all know. And unless I can warp speed myself back from Gifted New York, I won't be here.
Okay, so, yeah, so the 8th.
Do it Monday.
Well, I'm gonna give Phyllis will only get
You
back.
can do it without me.
Well, yeah, I think we're gonna have to, because I don't want Phyllis, it's not fair to Phyllis to.
I agree,
try to
I
do it all.
totally agree. I'm just telling everybody I won't be.
Okay.
It's gonna be an
So-
open meeting, right?
Yeah.
You make a decision now, say do a 90-day, 5.54, so do.
Well, it's not, I think the bigger issue is all the rest of the information from Phyllis. Why don't we bring that, why don't we do that under new business that way? We'll
Okay.
amend the agenda to do it under new business.
All right.
So we'll revisit the August maturity at the meeting before council on August 8th, when we have more information.
Yeah.
Transactions for the month of June included collection of real estate taxes totaling $226,000. Other local taxes totaled $865,000. The first portion of the 2022 Benetcon reimbursement was received totaling $160,000. That represents half of the surplus from last year. Assuming that we receive the second half of the surplus during the calendar year, and that's usually a December disbursement, we would be $130,000 greater than what had been anticipated. We had budgeted $190,000. Summer recreation revenues totaled 41,000.
What do we do with the Pentagon, just put in the general fund?
Yes, it is a budgeted revenue of, I budgeted 190,000.
Okay, so if we get another trench, that'll be excess.
Correct.
Okay, will.
Yeah. The letter indicated it was 50% this year, versus the 75 it had been the prior year.
I was at a meeting and that consortium, was by far the best consortium Pentagon has claim-wise. I just told Keith though, I'm seeing it across the board in health insurance, that claims are going through the roof. All the people paying for post-COVID, not getting their knees done and not getting their heart checked, all that stuff is paying for it now. So next year we might want to take a look at that number.
Making the assumption we're not gonna get the same thing.
Well, we'll get it, but we won't get it
Well,
much.
usually in the fall, Benetton provides an estimate
Yeah.
based on our experience for the current year.
We're also paying, in the past, we've had some high claimants on the plan, which affects our renewal, and some of those claimants are no longer on the plan, so we're probably paying too much, what we're doing on a monthly basis, but you're getting it back, so.
Revenues totaled, 2,487,000, a positive variance versus a prior year of 277,000, a negative variance of 86,000 compared to the June budget. Year-to-date revenues totaled 14,045,000, a positive variance versus the prior year, and a positive variance versus the year-to-date budget. Expenditures for June included the payment of the second quarter MMO for 69,000. Payments were made on Street Act number 1 and the final payment for the Green Light Go project. 3 of the 6 tennis courts were refurnished as budgeted for 44,000. And there was also equipment received for the 4th and Oldie pump station and the brand meter pit, totaling 10,000. Total expenses for the month were $2,094,000, 310,000 more than last year, but 440,000 less than what had been budgeted. Year-to-date expenditures total 11,340,000, 2 million more than the prior year, and that's primarily just timing of the payments for our capital projects. In '22, most of our capital projects were very late in the year, and we've completed more of those items earlier this year. Versus the year-to-date budget is a positive variance of 167,000. On a net basis, revenues exceeded expenditures for the month of June by 392,000, and on a year-to-date basis by 2,705,000. A negative variance compared to prior year, but a positive variance versus where we thought we'd be through June, budget-wise.
But a lot of just timing.
It is all timing. It's very difficult to predict when those capital project payments are gonna be coming due. When the 2,705,000 is added to the beginning of the year fund balance, the overall fund balance at the end of June totals 14,691,000. Of that amount, 2,279,000 is reserved for future commitments, leaving unreserved fund balance of 12,412,000. The pending grant reimbursements total 198,000. There's currently 17,000 in open permit fees. So our unreserved fund balance, along with pending reimbursements, total 12,628,000. Already included in fund balance is open receivables of 1,216,000. That number is high compared to the prior year because the second quarter utility bills went out right at the end of June. We looked at the reserves at the end of June. During the month, 10,000 was added to the MS4 reserve. We continue to receive revenue from the bike share stations that we're accumulating for future bike route maintenance. And also we've incurred the first engineering fee for the traffic study where we had received money ahead of time last year from Equus for that study. So the change in reserves for June total 10,000, and our reserve balance at the end of June is 2,279,000. Variances, I continue to update the interest projection, so that's a positive 388. I believe we've incurred all the civil service expenses that we're expecting, that would be 29,000. And continued expenses for engineering for the State Hill Road project and the West Lawn Interceptor have been updated. They're both about 25,000. Also, I've updated the year-to-date expense for the Memorial Day Parade, which was unbudgeted. Expenses to date total 6,500. There may be some strays that come in on our recent credit card bill, but that should be a fairly good number. We've also paid for the interchange lighting repairs. That total was about 17,000. 50% of that was billable to PennDOT. So that bill has been sent and I'm awaiting receipt of that. The sidewalk project for the current year is estimated to come in about 12,000 more than budget, and I have more detail of that with the capital projects. So any questions on the variances?
The interchange lighting repairs were even more than that.
They were, but the telco bill was 17,000, 50% of which I was able to bill to PennDOT.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah. So I haven't added the Benetcon to that at this time. It most likely will materialize in December. I can put that in the pending numbers, but I hate to spend it ahead of
Yeah,
time.
you know what, let's not do that. Let's just wait. We'll look at it for what we'll do with it next year. Maybe if we know it by the end of the year, maybe we'll add it to one of the reserves, maybe the fire apparatus or something like that we know we're gonna have to start budgeting for. So let's just wait.
Okay.
The 50/50 sidewalk, the reason that's negative is simply because we have more sidewalks done this year than
Yes,
normal.
and I do have more
Which is a good
detail on
thing,
that.
which is a good thing.
All right, on capital projects, during June, we paid app number 1 for the amount of $28,575. The infrastructure committee approved application number 2 in the amount of $128,000, and that is pending council approval next week. The first large application for the streets, it will be reviewed by the infrastructure committee later this month, and that will likely total $728,000. And that's one of the reasons I want to keep part of that $2 million. The infrastructure committee recommended the award to Astil Construction. We had budgeted $50,000. The contract totals $103,000, so it'd be a negative expense variance of $52,000. But that added quantity means that we'll be billing more to the residents. And where we had budgeted $25,000 in revenue, the first estimate for the billing is $65,000. So that's a positive revenue variance of $40,000. So the net project for variances is estimated to be about $12,000. The final payment was made for the Green Light Go project for $39,000. As I said, we've submitted application for reimbursement number 1. That's expected on Friday for $151,000. I'm working on a new PennDOT platform to submit the second portion for reimbursement. That would be another $200,000 that's anticipated. It's going to take me a little more time to get through their program to get that submitted. It's a little bit of a challenge. On the water project, the second application was approved by the infrastructure committee for $75,000 and is pending council approval next week. All that will remain on that project then will be the retainer of 5%. Infrastructure committee approved payment of a CoStarz invoice for the televising of $172,000. Council will be also approving that next week. The only portion of the capital sewer improvements that there have not been expenditures on, of course, is the West Lawn Interceptor and the beginning of construction for the pump station. So in addition to the payment apps and the sewer equipment, The only other capital expenditures for the month of June were engineering fees for the pump station. So capital expenditures totaled $173,000 for a year-to-date total of $1,234,000. Any question on expenditures for June? Going on to revenues, the tax collector reported collections totaling $308,000, bringing year-to-date collections to $4,509,000, leaving $206,000 uncollectible at this point, just 4.38%. So percentage-wise, we're doing very well. Of the $308,000, $87,000 will be a July receipt. I'm waiting receipt of that check now. So the gross receipts from the tax collector totaled $221,000 in June. When that is netted down by discounts and we add delinquent taxes collected by the county and interim taxes, the net real estate taxes for the month of June totaled $226,000, bringing the year-to-date total to $4,420,000. That's a positive variance versus the prior year due to the increased assessed values, and a positive variance versus the year-to-date budget
Last year.
of $378,000. There were 3 court orders received during the month of June. One for the apartments on Van Reed, and 2 for properties on North Wymeston Boulevard. I believe that is New Story and the lot next to it. Those taxes had all been paid already, so the reduction causes refunds of current year taxes, so those are expenses. On June 1st, the interim bills did go out for the increased assessment for the knitting mills. Local taxes totaled $865,000, a negative variance versus the prior year, and a negative variance versus the June budget. On a year-to-date basis, our local taxes totaled $3,575,000, a negative variance versus the prior year, and a similar negative variance versus the budget. For real estate transfer tax for the month of June totaled $30,000. But yesterday we received the July receipt of the June activity. It included 2 commercial properties. One was for 208 North Park Road. Looking at Google, that looked to be like a Yale
So
area.
that's the complex I was referencing. I guess my question is, did it only come over as 208, because there's 3 parcels there? There's
Came
208.
over as 208.
So I wonder if 220 is still pending, because the sale is to be everything from Yale, Sunnyside, down to A to Z, all the way back to the Kinsley
I
property.
think the report indicated it was 208.
Okay, I'll follow up with,
How much is that?
58,000 in tax.
which would, I mean, that would make sense. It was, the whole property was supposed to sell for around 10, so that would make sense.
Also, the Holiday Inn Express, that transferred yielded 36,000. So with the July receipt, we are much closer to where we were last year, so reaching budget might not be possible, but it might not be as bad as we thought. Earned income tax for the month of June totaled $692,000. Monday's receipt of the June activity totaled $128,000. So on a year-to-date basis, we have $1,821,000, a negative variance versus the prior year, although we are picking up a little bit. It's unlikely that we will reach the full budget, but again, might not be as bad as we had anticipated. Mercantile tax for the month of June totaled $50,000. That would bring the year-to-date total to $1,347,000, a negative variance versus the prior year at $52,000. At this point, most of the mercantile tax has been collected, as the due date was April 15th. So payments received thereafter will be collection of delinquent returns. And lastly, the local services tax totaled $101,000 for the month of June. Monday's receipt of the June activity totaled 5,000, bringing our year-to-date total to 286,000, a negative variance versus the prior year of 9,000. So we should end up close to budget, maybe a little short there. And that's all I have for the month of June. Are there any questions on June activity?
Looks good.
Next on the agenda.
Great, thank you, Phyllis.
Nicely done.
Thank you.
Borough Hall Police Department. So what's the timeline on the public works at this point?
Drawing is almost finalized, should be ready to go out to bid within the next 2 to 3 weeks.
The next what?
The final drawing should be ready to be put out to bid within the next 2 to 3
2
weeks.
to 3 weeks. And then how long we let them go out to bid?
Typically 3 weeks, give or take.
So we're 6 weeks out. Okay. Did we get plans for,
Yep,
and,
they tell me nothing. They have, other than 555, which I already knew the layout, the plan for 575 is one sheet, has no dimensions on it, doesn't tell me anything.
I'm not sure, and without being able to look at the building, get into it, and not having any plans, I'm not sure how we can do anything with that.
Yeah.
It makes it tough.
And that's all that was available, we didn't have anything else. Okay. So, what about this other item that did the structure committee?
Well, I mean, we need an approval on the final invoice for the
Oh,
feasibility
yeah.
study that was
Yeah,
already
is
done.
that, Phyllis, that's not a budgeted item, is that not part of it?
It's not, I coded that expense to borough buildings where we had budgeted 100,000 for the police air conditioning unit or air conditioning replacement. So we have room in that budget account, provided we don't
You
do
wanna
more
not
with the air
list that on,
conditioning.
I mean, we had the 100,000 that we took out
Yes,
on the variance report, maybe
So
we should add this to the
we could do
variance
that.
report. Yeah,
Yep.
we should, it's a non-budgeted item.
yep.
What are your thoughts about?
Pay it.
We need a
Yeah.
motion to pay this, to recommend the council to pay the other license costs. We have a motion and a second, all in favor? Opposed? Ayes have it. You know, as far as this building, I think we need to sit down. I don't think it's a question of hiring Meister Cox. I think it's a question of sitting down with someone, and maybe it's him, and talking through some creative options. It's not hiring somebody to come in and do it. I think we need to talk about it.
Yeah.
Just so you're aware, there's a water leak in here this
Yeah.
morning. The upstairs.
Well, then we should absolutely spend $5 million to move very quickly.
No, I'm just letting you know that we continue to have issues. The whole upstairs, there were some major water leaks in the past 2 weeks between the upstairs and the basement.
Well, we better get them fixed because we're not moving anytime soon. So I would suggest we figure out where the water leaks are and get them fixed. Because it's not gonna be just like the women's locker room. It's not a quick solution, it's not a short-term fix. So if we got a water leak, we better fix it.
I understand that, I'm just bringing it to your attention.
Okay, we better fix it. We're
I-
not- The moving truck's not backing up anytime in the next few weeks.
Is the leak related at all to
The fact we needed a Borough Hall,
well, no, the
Probably.
construction that led to the stuff that's already here, it's raining on it, so what was the roof like before we fixed the inside?
Probably from the air conditioning.
No, new roof,
Yes.
it is, so the leaks last week are from the condensation and the air conditioning units and the fans.
So is it under warranty?
And no, that was done in 2015. There was a whole new roof put on this building in 2014
Yeah, I
after the
think the
hailstorm.
roof's a problem.
No,
It's
the roof-
condensation.
The roof's fine, it's not coming, because it would have to come third floor, second floor, all the way down, and the third floor is dry. We don't know, Jim's office is what's above here, and his floor is completely dry, so.
No water marks.
I know, that's the weird part, we can't figure out, the table this morning, you can see the new water spots.
These units are high maintenance units, they always have been. And this, when they moved in here in '73, we had the same things. And what had happened is the condensate drains do not get cleaned out and they back up. It's a constant thing, you've gotta get in there, you gotta clean them, and then some chemical that they put down to keep them clean.
We now have that,
There's a lot of,
we now have that
yeah.
in mass.
Yeah, we had those back in 1960 when I started in carpentry.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're getting there, fixing them all, they finally ripped them the hell out, so that's good.
And the other option when these were put in was to put loft units in the third floor, drop the air down through, and then use regular central units for the bottom floor. There was talk at the time of using some of the third floor space for other things, which is closed off now at the top of the stairs. That never happened, so, here we're stuck with these things.
Does it make sense in the near future to meet with, I guess, Meister Cox and just get an idea of what some things that we could do here would be versus moving? So, one day I woke up and I thought, well, if we put a building where the parking lot is, some kind of addition, and I have no idea what I'm talking about, I admit that. But if you put an addition where the parking lot is and pave down here, make that the parking lot, does that make sense in the whole realm of things? I don't know that it does or it doesn't, but I don't know that
That
we
was
will
more-
ever know unless we ask.
If I switch and put some building down in front, that's
No.
another option.
You were talking about the opposite, but
I was talking about the opposite, yeah.
But
Because
why
then,
don't-
because then you can put a building there.
Yeah, either way,
But
either way.
but should we be looking at all of those options?
Yeah,
And how do we
That's
talk to
for
somebody about them? That's
Yeah.
the question. Who do we talk to? Is it Meister Cox? Is it an architect? Is it a designer? Is it somebody that we can sit down and throw some ideas at and have them help develop? I mean, it's not a question of hiring somebody to give us a cost. First, you have to have a vision, and you have to have a design, or you have to have at least a concept. And I think we need to sit down with somebody who we can talk to, who can look at this globally and say, what are the options?
so are there
Before you start.
Didn't we did we?
that's part of Olson's study.
Yeah, Olson did something like that, right?
Yeah, there were two options. There was the option for the front yard and there was the option for the back. In fact, one is a 10,000, give or take, square foot lease building that would be basically back here, but you would access it from Reading Boulevard, which is basically what you were
How much
talking
was
about.
that?
He said, I mean, his guesstimate as to the cost was 7 to 10 million, not including where you're putting staff temporarily while that's going on.
So are there
7 to 10 million.
It's new construction, and you have to renovate all of this at the same time.
Oh, yeah, right. How about the architect up the street here that did a lot of work?
That's
over the
Meister
years?
Cox.
No,
Mike
he's
Cowder
thinking
that
of Mike
well.
Cowder.
It's Cowder Kelly.
Yeah, we did that big study, we had those two
Yeah, right
binders
back in
full of stuff.
09, wasn't
Olson used that as his baseline for his study.
Like,
it? Yeah, 09, wasn't it? They used that, wasn't it,
Yeah.
09?
Are there any visionaries outside of Berks County? If you look around the county with all the new construction, a lot of it's Lancaster construction coming into Berks County. And there might be some visionaries over there that we haven't talked to that would give us a new picture of what we're trying to do as opposed to going back to the same people and listening to the same concepts. Kind of stuck.
Well, Meister Cox didn't give us the stuff to hear, we got that from Olson.
Yeah, well, it's like,
I know.
you do it and you do it and he'll do it and you do it. But go over there, get 2 or 3 people from Lancaster that are building these.
If I remember correctly, we talked about it when Olson's number came in, that's when we started to think about, we gotta look outside of
Here.
what is traditionally Borough to move forward, but the numbers aren't getting better, let's put it that way.
No.
But we may get some visions that make the amount look more acceptable if it looks better.
Do you know of any townships built, problem is most of the new township buildings are new township buildings or borough buildings.
Except for the one in Ralphwood Township that just blew up.
Yeah.
Right, except for that one.
Yeah, it just don't have many possibilities to look at, that's the main
Well,
problem.
I think we're kind of limited on the possibilities too.
I know.
I mean, the real idea is the best, if you really want to stay on this property, my hunch is that we can plow this building over and start building again.
Well,
But that
that's
would
another
cost-
option,
That would,
another option.
that's gotta be way more expensive.
Yes,
Well, if you talk to people like,
This thing could be out on it,
Right.
it could move
or you
to
talk to people like Cimarron,
Right.
some of those guys, I mean, these guys are big enough, and if they're not, if they didn't just build a borough hall, they've certainly been around long enough to have built these.
Well, we can
things.
ask Jim if he knows anybody outside the town, outside, he knows, he's
I can't-
outside.
I can't think of their name right now. When we did the RFP for the master plan study, there is an architectural firm in Lancaster. Oh God, why is their name escaping me? It's like right on the tip of my tongue. They have a very good reputation. I mean, I know them more from the end of doing, like, they've done a lot of West Reading's studies for everything from the parking study to the quarter study to things like that, but I mean, they're an architectural firm as well.
I just think we need to, I just think we need to get somebody that can help us with a vision, somebody, not just putting plans together, but somebody who can look at this thing and say,
an overall view of the plan, yeah.
Thank you, yes.
Who was it?
Dirk and Ensign,
I think they've done work for the school district.
they have,
August
this
is-
was,
yeah, and Reading and I think several others.
Well, it can't hurt to have a fresh look.
Well, how about, did we
Gotta
ever?
do it quick though, I mean, we have.
First of all, you've gotta know what you want.
Right.
Yeah,
well, that's the problem.
Council's gotta know what you wanna give these people before they can start even think about a design.
But short term, I agree with, I don't know if I agree with Keith but, you know, if we have locker room needs, we're gonna have to fix something quick here, short term. And if that means they have to use this place, and we have to go to the library for council meetings, so be it, but.
my concern with doing that is because this is a commercial building, you don't just build a locker room, now
Yeah.
everything becomes ADA
you have
accessible,
showers
everything
and all
has,
that
yeah.
stuff, yeah.
Well, when you start doing that, then you might as well put a bomb and blow it up, because it's not
I
just
was
about
just talking
cheap.
temporary lockers.
No, I agree, but if you do that, then you're just,
Call the school, we have 5 lockers, and like, a little pool over there. All right, I mean,
Well, does the police department need that big heating room?
Yeah,
They do, they need that,
I mean, it's undersized when they use it,
Or can
Well,
we use this
can
for
they use this for them?
possibly.
you know, they could come up.
I mean, as long as there's not a conflict that we're using it.
Or we go to the library. We don't have borough meetings here anymore. We schedule them at the library, we own the building.
Yes, but they also have things on their calendar. We
But
did
it's
run
not
in,
much, I mean, let's face it, the chances of them needing this room, us needing this room, and that library being used for that room are pretty slim.
not if we have the calendar in advance, correct. But I can tell you when we were doing that while this room was under renovation, trying to schedule certain meetings over there was challenging at
Right.
times.
No, I think we own it.
No, I mean, if they got something scheduled, they got something scheduled, I mean, we still have, we could go, there's other places, we could go to, well, we talked about the infrastructure going to the fire company one time.
August,
In August, right, that's what I said, and I won't be there. Oh, I know, I will be there for August month, I will be, I was thinking of borough council meeting.
I think we have short-term, we need to solve some short-term problems. And we need to look at it long-term, and I think some of this has to be, we need to sit down with somebody that can help us with a vision.
then.
But that is kind of what we did with Olson. That is
Yeah,
what
we
did.
already have the,
We did that kind of. with
we know
Olson.
what everyone
Maybe we ought
needs,
to
we know
review
what the police
those,
department needs, we know what administrative.
maybe we ought to review what Olson
administration
needs.
needs.
Right.
Now we just need to configure.
should we go grab it?
Maybe we ought
And
to
the
look
question
at
is
that.
configuring it where? And
That's the point.
And what can we afford?
That,
And part of it, what we can afford is gonna be based on what the bids come in for public works. because let's not forget, that's where this whole thing started. And that should be where we're focusing the initial expenditure.
And that's in the works. That's in
Six
the
weeks
works.
out. We're
We're
6
probably
weeks away from that.
we're 6 weeks out from knowing
Why don't we
what that
for
cost is gonna be.
Either infrastructure or for this meeting, well, this meeting next month won't be enough time, but review Olson's plans a little bit, maybe take 5 minutes and just review those plans.
I think there's enough from Olson's plan as to a concept that you could start a conversation. I mean, it would be very preliminary, but you could give it to a contractor and say, can you put a cost to this? Cause I'm pretty sure that's how Olson came up with the 7 to 10 million number.
Why don't we at the infrastructure committee meeting, just bring that plan back up,
Okay,
okay, refresh
That-
everybody's mind,
was that
including
plan-
mine, by the way.
Was that planned just for this area, this group, this area, this building?
this whole property.
Right. Well, the
It
property,
was
yeah,
the 7 to 10
property.
to put the addition out here.
It was to put one of the additions on as well as redo police department to become
So
administration.
it was 7 to 10 with either that project or whatever.
Plus, I mean, the other things he was not factoring in specifically were additional parking, the fence, like other things that would need landscaping that would need to be updated.
And the driveway, if you needed
Yeah.
driveway for the police and all that stuff. 7 to 10 million.
Sounds like a lot of money. Well, when you start doing stuff in buildings like this, you know,
Oh, yeah.
Cheers, Mary.
No one's have to go.
Nothing's cheaper.
Put it on the infrastructure committee, just to review the
Concrete.
Olson.
Right, this is poured concrete.
I think we're all starting to forget what we've already done
Yeah.
a little bit,
Yeah.
including me, by the way.
Yeah.
I'll be committed to that lack of knowledge, forgetfulness.
How important is it to keep police and admin together?
Somewhat, I mean, somewhat yes, somewhat no. There's a lot of stuff they bring over to us to do, like everything from we send out their certified mail to, you know, just the ease of being able to go back and forth to talk to one another. But at the same time, you know, it could be 3 or 4 days before there's any intermix between.
So you could live with that, I mean, it may wouldn't be perfect, but that's a possibility.
I think what we like more than anything right now about having them right there is because there's no security in this building. We at least know the police are right there, God forbid something happens.
It's fair.
But,
That would be a
When
deterrent.
it start.
That'd be another option, maybe one of those buildings in Man Reed for the police, but I don't think we need both those buildings. I think that one building would be too big for admin.
No, you need both of those.
You need both if you're putting,
For police and
Admin.
Yeah, for police,
Yeah.
admin in one building, you think, that much?
the problem is based off of Olson's numbers, admin wouldn't fit in just the smaller building. So you would be splitting,
Wow.
Not unless you put something on, extend out the back,
Right.
and, you know, make it a covered
We
parking
also,
lot.
we also have to remember, we gotta watch what we're saying when it comes to what Michelle just said. If admin wouldn't fit, well, in a perfect world, admin doesn't fit, but we might be able to shoehorn a few people, make it smaller offices or something along those
Yeah.
It
lines.
seems hard to believe that if you look at the number of people that are in admin now, the number of offices we have here, that I think, that when you look at the Olson plan, I think that is overstated in terms of the square footage.
Yeah, you don't all
Right.
need
but
to be.
keep in mind with throwing that admin number is council chambers.
Really.
At double
But
the
that's
size
this-
of
That's
this.
this room, so that's.
But at double the size of
300 square
this,
feet, 400 square feet, that's
But
not.
there's a perfect example, we don't need to make it double this size for the 12 meetings you have a year that have 5 people at it. I mean, we could make it 50% bigger, but it doesn't need to be 100%.
I mean, bigger in some fashion would be nice for staff trainings and other things we do where there's not enough room.
I agree. Alright, so put the Olson, review the Olson plans on at the next infrastructure committee meeting if we can.
How many pages was that report? We never got a copy of that.
David.
On there.
It was long.
It was back in February.
So
by-
it
blew by
wasn't
the computer.
necessarily a study based on this building, it was a space and,
No, just the space.
Mass and yield.
That's right,
Mass and
yeah,
yield study,
yeah, the space thing,
which
okay, I
included,
remember that.
yeah, so,
Yeah,
Let's review it. It might only take 5 minutes, but let's review it.
there was very little detail done
yes,
about this because
yes,
of the cost,
yes,
correct?
Yeah, I think when we heard 7 to 10 million, okay, that's over.
that,
It was, roughly, I'm gonna say the last 5 pages,
Yeah.
where there were 3 options. Options 1, I believe, was to put something in the front, option 2 was to put something in the back, and option 3 was, not really a dollar figure put to it, it was the explanation of, all of these unknown costs as to staff having to relocate, live in a like, he was just making all these other points.
It's almost like we need to have a workshop, because there's so many different ideas flowing around this table. Everybody's got a great idea, and then you need an architect to tell you whether your idea is better than his idea. And, it's just not something you do in an hour from 9 to 10, and then come back next week and try and do it again. It's like, keep building on it.
Okay. Throw it back on there.
Updated 2023 fee schedule.
We've made some draft revisions to the fee schedule based off McCarthy taking over commercial zoning, some changes with craft and residential zoning, just to make things easier for people to understand, to keep the fees similar. We also added on the fee coming out of the fire and police discussion, that if someone is doing a run or walk from the stone house, the rental of the stone house facility is required. And added some general language to cover informal commercial zoning review so that we can go back and bill the applicant, since that's gonna be an invoice coming from the clerk's office. So this would be an updated resolution on the agenda for next week's council meeting to adopt, to update those fees for those reasons.
Do we need the action here for that, or?
Typically, you would make a recommendation to council to approve adoption.
So,
We have a motion and a
Second.
second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Old business? The fireworks from the other night, have we formally thanked, ROG?
I believe multiple times at meetings and in public.
Well, I was gonna say like a certificate, I was
Yeah.
gonna bring that up at the council meeting, that we should, certificate of appreciation. Maybe
yeah,
have it and present it that night or move it a month later.
I would say on such short notice, you might wanna wait until the August meeting.
Yeah, we can just get something.
I think if we just send them a formal letter from council that thanks them,
Well,
that's enough.
Jerry Wojciechowski, God bless it,
Yes.
called the ROG Reading Orthopedic Group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did he correct it though? Cause he said he was, I nicely told him that after the fact, and he said he was gonna correct it on the mic.
I
I didn't hear that though.
I left it as.
He's got everybody under the umbrella though, right?
Well, you wanna add that to something for council for Tuesday as opposed to doing it?
Yeah.
We'll just throw that in under new
Add that
business.
to,
You can do it under my manager's report.
There you go,
okay.
that's good.
Any new business?
If you wanna talk about the official date and time for the August rescheduled meeting.
So, Steve's not gonna be here. But,
Might be able to join my phone if I go back.
so Phyllis, so the meeting normally would be, the executive session would be what, 6?
no, it would be, Thursday the 3rd would be the normal date.
Right,
He's
no, but I
saying
mean,
council.
for the council meeting
Council
on the
meeting
8th.
I
would
mean,
be Tuesday, August 8th.
So we normally would meet at 6 o'clock for
no, that's early. Normally 6:15 to 6:30.
6:15 to 6:30.
Yeah.
So, Phyllis, what's your timeline to be able to get some data together?
Start on Saturday and, have something together Monday, Tuesday.
Well, how about we not plan on getting anything Monday,
Okay?
don't start on Saturday, you start on Monday, and you
Oh,
have something
I
for
know.
Tuesday.
I
Just
can't
top line stuff.
Yeah, I can't start on Monday and catch up on a week's worth of work and do month end.
Oh,
I'm
Is it
good.
payroll too?
I'm good, but not that good at it is payroll.
okay, so,
Finances will be the finances. We're not gonna be broke. We may have to make a recommendation to council on the maturity of that CD.
Would you wanna do that, maybe just, are you suggesting not do anything, but if there's any
We just have
financial,
an admin part, whatever.
and if there's anything financial wise that needs to be approved by council, if you could just give me a list and I can do it under my
Would the
manager's report.
report be done at
council? Still on Tuesday, it's an hour later.
Yeah,
Oh, that's true.
so what do you suggest? You suggesting we do it on the regular date, or just do it, or
well,
wait?
we could do admin if needed on the regular date.
We could have you just, Phyllis, tell Michelle what action items are necessary for the council meeting, and you just supplement your manager's report and have council deal directly with the finance-related issues.
I don't want her to come back from vacation on Saturday and start working.
Yeah.
That doesn't seem to make any sense. That's my recommendation. We have an admin meeting. We reported at the council meeting. I mean, if for some reason a $3 million bill comes up out of the blue, yeah, then we'll discuss it, but
Well, I'm just thinking, you anticipate in the normal course, there'll be a couple of bills to pay.
Yeah.
Contractual, requests for payment.
but those are all through infrastructure.
Mostly I'm reporting on action that infrastructure is already approved. I'm just advising the committee.
And if there's something that comes up unexpectedly before she goes on vacation, but that finance could weigh in on because it's after infrastructure but before council, we can still do that as part of the admin.
So we'll just keep the meeting where it is,
Yeah,
talk about what we can, it'll be a short one.
You okay with that, John?
John clicked off.
Oh, okay, John.
I
I'm
don't-
still here.
Oh,
I'm
So
fine with
I'll
that.
have the Pliggett recommendation.
He's fine with that.
Alright, then we don't need to do anything, we don't need to change anything. Okay? Scratch that.
I have one thing for new business.
Does anybody else have anything for new business?
I hate to even do this. So I'm not sure this is the right committee. Has there been any new issues? Well, I guess I gotta amend the agenda. I'd like to amend the agenda to talk about the basketball courts at Happy Hollow. Anybody else wanna do that?
Sure.
I'll second that.
Okay.
Any public comments about the basketball courts at Happy Hollow?
Oh, I don't know what he wants to talk about.
Neither do I.
I'm not sure yet.
You're all, stand by, because we're all gonna find out together.
Alright, now what do I gotta do?
We have to
Say what you want.
motion to,
I'd like to have a motion to talk about the basketball courts at Happy Hollow.
I'll second this, talk about the basketball courts at Happy Hollow.
I think that's, either one, yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about the basketball courts. Or have the problems been
Yeah,
lessened?
yeah.
Yes.
And if
it has.
anything, I've been told there's been a lot of families down there playing instead of the loud music and.
And I'm getting to the point
Yeah, I haven't heard
that as
some
much as
voices.
I hate shutting down any recreational facility, I hate
I
it.
agree.
But if it gets too bad, maybe we transfer that from a basketball court to like a pickleball court.
I already talked about that, pickleball's actually more noisy than basketball, so.
I don't
but you get
understand that.
different-
I mean,
you would get a
recreation,
different
you're gonna
crowd.
have some noise.
So
I mean,
you potentially are.
Put two courts there, there's only so many people who can play pickleball.
Rec boards discussed that, they've actually, and discussed it kind of ad nauseum. And were initially huge proponents of it till they started looking into it and thought maybe that wasn't the best fit for down there.
Maybe
So-
a dodgeball court if it keeps getting bad.
but now they're taking.
Corkball, something, yes, I mean, there's other continued discussion as to what can be done with those courts if basketball.
I keep hearing about it, and I actually drove by, I've been away from some infrastructure meetings for like 2 months, but I drove by in June. And
Well,
it
it was closed then, I think.
No, it was open, it was.
They
Well,
reopened like June 8th,
And there's some issues.
yeah,
Yeah, well, what they did is they took two of the baskets away.
Well, you can't play
Right.
full court basketball anymore.
Right, they took two of the baskets away out of the floor.
Which I hate.
Which doesn't make any sense to me, you know, but,
You can play horse.
you know, but it's not as bad as it has been, but it's a shame, I agree with you, not to use that space for recreation, it's there.
Okay, I just wanna know if it was getting better from the actions that we
Yes.
took already.
And just, same thing happened at Wyomissing Hills, it was not just Happy Howell.
Right, no, I
Yeah,
understand.
so,
That's
but
fair.
we've not gotten any feedback, from Wyomissing Hills, but Pete's had contact from multiple people since that happened, saying it's gotten better.
Yeah, that's
Okay, end of discussion.
Those were there, can't use it.
Anybody else have anything for new business? Not, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second? Favor? Meeting adjourned.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John.